I want to be honest with you guys, a lot of these video ideas are just off-the-cuff concepts related to my personal relationship with business, and this one is one of the most deep and profound ones I've been thinking about recently. This all goes back to when I checked my YouTube app just a few minutes before making this video, and I saw that my latest video, that was filmed about 2 days ago from the time of filming, had about 13 views. I sat there and I thought, 13 views? That's awful. It really did sound like a terrible concept. But then I zoomed out and I thought to myself a bit more. I thought to myself about this particular channel. I have had YouTube channels in the past which have done much better, but we're in the early days of this channel and we need to see much more growth in the future. But this is the thing, 13 views in YouTube as a whole isn't very good. 13 views for this channel is brilliant. This channel, when I started it, was getting like 2 views an episode. When I used to get 3 views an episode, I was absolutely ecstatic, because it looked like the channel was growing. In the past month, I've seen some of our videos get as much as 2, 3, 400 views, which is really good going and it shows some great growth, and I was really ecstatic for these times. But here's the thing though, now we're coming back to a more ordinary level of where this channel is, and we're still seeing some breakout videos, but for the whole, we're seeing videos now start to idle around between 7 and 20 views. It feels like this channel is failing, it feels like this channel isn't doing too well. But think about this. Just 2 or 3 months ago, we were getting 3 or 4 views an episode. We've seen massive success, massive growth, and we continue to. This is a huge breakthrough. So how does this relate to this topic? Because it proves my point exactly. It proves that business and ultimately success as a whole can be a little bit of a toxic spiral. Because when you start to make it, it starts to feel less of an achievement. Let me explain this on a more wide basis. You start to have a bit of success, you feel amazing, on top of the world. The hard work is finally paying off. After a couple of weeks and months, this becomes your new normal. You're now used to making this much money, getting these many views, having this sort of a lifestyle. And then what happens? This becomes something which you just take for granted. Anything less than that now seems like a failure. All you need now is more than that. When just a couple of months ago, you were really content with that. And this can happen and happen and happen, and I've seen this in my own personal life related to business, YouTube and other topics. It can lead to a sort of miserable mindset in a way, because you could be doing great for where you are, not necessarily related to the world, just view where you are and where you want to be. This channel for where I want it to be is doing quite alright. I'd like it to grow faster, but we're doing okay. But this is a thing. You expect certain things or you perceive certain things differently once you get used to them. And that's what I'm trying to say here. This can be quite a toxic spiral in life in general, not necessarily only related to the world of business. You start to see yourself win a little bit, and then you expect that constantly. But what does this lead to? It leads to that spiral, like I just said, of unhappiness and a feeling of unmotivation, demotivation, and unsuccessfulness, when in actuality, when you zoom out, you're doing really well. And I want to remind you guys of this in this video. One thing that I recommend doing every month at the latest is looking at where you were last month. This is what really reassured me when I looked back at my YouTube chart, and I think you guys can do this because you can relate it to any field of really life or business. Just look at what you were doing last month and look at how you've progressed. Are you trying to get stronger in the gym? How much more are you lifting now than what you were 6 months ago? Are you trying to get more views on your channel? How many more views are you getting now than 6 months ago? Are you trying to make more money? Well, how much progress have you made there? You see what I'm saying here? When you look at it objectively, you are probably doing amazingly, but this is what happens to us a lot of the time. We get into a bit of a place of comfortableness and we start to expect things and take things for granted. And this is why I really think being grateful and showing active gratitude for what you have is one of the most important things to keep you sort of grounded in the world of business. Because if you expect more and more from the same amount of effort, ironically it often leads to you having less. I've seen this in my own life in the sense that I was doing so well in certain fields, I then expected that to happen, and then when we got a little bit less, I got into this sort of toxic spiral of getting less and less because I did less and less because I felt more and more unmotivated because the results were slightly worse than average. The only reason why I talk about my personal experience with this is because when you see it in somebody else's perspective, hopefully you view how ridiculous this really is. The person was doing well to begin with, the person was doing well all the way through, but a small dip was enough to make them feel like they'd failed. That was my personal instance, and I've seen this so many times from so many people. It does appear to be a common human thing, where you're doing so well, and then something throws you off a little bit, or you get used to something, and then you don't make any further progress. So how do we get past this? Well, I really do think one of the best things you can do is write down what you've achieved and look back every month at what you're doing. Also, if you have some sort of statistical data, I often like to compile that into a chart. So YouTube fortunately already does this for me on my channel, but when it comes to business, I outline how much I'm making every single month, and then I think about what I've done to do that. If I'm doing the same and I'm getting the same results, I'm happy with that, especially if things are starting to level off at a high level. If I want to get more, I need to work harder, and the same's true for you guys. But don't feel bad for doing well. Don't feel bad for not making as much progress. I think life should always be about making progress, but progress can be a sort of transverse experience where you might be making progress in this field and then you want to start making progress in a completely different area. So if you're making like £5,000 a month, let's say, from your business, now your progress might have changed. You may not want to make any more money than that because you're completely comfortable. Your next progress may be on your next goal, which might be traveling the world, and now you're making progress in that way. But the thing is, everything does seem to reach a plateau. If you're there right now and you're continuing to do well at that level, congratulations, don't feel bad for that. Just think about what the next goal is and what you want to achieve out of life as a whole. I personally think it's always good to go into new projects with a goal in mind, a set goal, and once you've achieved that goal, you have won. You can continue to grow from that path. I would never say to give up if you don't want to, but if you're happy with where you are, don't feel like you need to keep pushing it too much more. You can move on to the next idea. And if you do want to keep pushing it, think about what extra work you have to put in. So if I was to say that I'm not that happy with the fact that my YouTube videos were getting 13 views an episode, what do? Do I upload more often? Do I make better content with more interesting titles and thumbnails and topics? Do I film, several times a day? Do I make live streams? Do I do shorts? All these different avenues for expansion if I really wanted to expand my channel much faster. But then I have to ask, does that align with my long-term goal? And the answer would be no, because I don't want to be filming 5 pieces of content a day into the long-term future. I want to film 1 episode a day and be happy with that, and hopefully it does quite well. But regardless of what you're trying to do, if you're in that middle ground between having the success that you want and growing slowly, look back, look at how much of the metaphorical hill you've climbed, and look at how quickly you're moving. You're most likely doing a lot better than you think. But in the moment, it may not feel like that. So just remember how well you're doing. And just remember, you will do better if you keep working on your goals. So thank you for watching till the end. If you enjoyed, of course don't forget to subscribe, and you can join us almost every single day of the week for content like this. Thank you so much, and I want to see you again soon, so thanks.